One of the best ROIs, right, decisions that I ever made is like definitely going with your team, having all these like thousands of data points analyzed already in my screen. Okay, that helped me to make the best decision of going with the right franchise. That feeling of creating jobs and creating a long-term value is just beyond any feeling that working from 9 to 5 can give you, right?
You have Patrick Findaro here, founding partner at Visa Franchise. Excited to have on our former client, Adrian Giovanetti.
Yep.
He was a corporate executive at Procter & Gamble for 15 plus years, and he caught the entrepreneurial bug. And he opened up one franchise, opened up a second franchise location, secured the E2 visa. But enough from me. Let's hear from Adrian. Thanks for taking the time to connect.
Super, thank you, Patrick. Look, it has been an amazing journey. Starting actually with you guys. You guys helped me big time in selecting the right franchise and just making sure that I was moving in the right direction, right? In such an important jump, which is like after spending 17 years working on an amazing company, which is P&G, full of great people, great talent, amazing human beings, right? There is a time that you decide that it's time to make a jump and create something different, right? And to create value for you, create value for your family, and more importantly, like create jobs, right? And that feeling of creating jobs and creating a long-term value is just beyond any feeling that working from 9 to 5 can give you, right? So thank you very much in advance. And yes, basically I can tell you that what made me to make that jump was my family, right? My family, they have been the source of inspirations always, right? When you spend more time on a plane traveling, when you spend more time like locked in meetings, Zoom meetings, team meetings, than the time that you spend with your family, that's a moment that you realize, oh my God, I need to do something different, right?
Were there any critical points? Like, did you miss like pregnancy check-ins with the gynecologist, or just like certain family, certain events that like you
I
felt like you
believe
should have been there?
my kids were reaching an age, right, and that they were like they needed me more, right? So like interact and be more with, that, and that hit me, right? So I was like, okay, definitely, I need to, after 17 years, I have acquired so much knowledge and new skills in the market industry that I say it's time to put this to create something bigger and better, right? And again, you don't need to have 15, 17 years working in a multinational company to be able to do this jump. Okay, I wish I could do this, done this earlier in my career. I believe with you
We'd have
having
like an empire by now. We'd be interviewing about like 20 locations of Woof Gang, or maybe you have a conglomerate of different franchise businesses and independent businesses.
exactly. So I believe if you are an executive with more than 5 years of experience, right, you can definitely start thinking on creating something for your own, right? Instead, the way I see it is, instead earning a salary, you create your own salary, right? By working in your business. And that's the biggest difference.
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, hearing from you, you could kind of take ownership of your time. So, you could work more hours and maybe reduce headcount a little bit to take over some of the aspects of operating a Woof Gang bakery, or you could, focus on other business activities outside of Woof Gang, or open up that second location. And I'd
Eh,
imagine that gave you, some level of fulfillment.
Exactly. I mean, you have more freedom, right? Freedom to do. You're not working from 9 to 5. You don't have, a manager to report. I mean, you have someone to report, which are your clients, right? They
Your
are
clients,
they are
exactly.
they are the new bosses, right? But it's different, right? I mean, it's like Also, if you enjoy what you're doing, everything is much better, right?
And Adrian, did you ever consider like, I mean, coming from PNG, Procter and Gamble, like that's such a top. I mean, what I think of like CPG, fast moving consumer goods, I think of P&G and a few other Unilever as like marquee companies. I imagine you could have like founded a consumer good company, joined as a executive of a consumer good company, maybe a startup. How did you weigh that decision? Was it, were you afraid you want to be able to control your own destiny with those choices, or why go the franchise path, owning your local business as opposed to continue on the entrepreneurial path but at a smaller company?
Yeah, look, I believe this concept of creating value for the family, value for the future, is something that actually kicked me, right? It's like I want to build something that lasts longer. If you're working for a company, one day you can be working in one company, the other day you can be working in another company, but that's it. You end working with a company one day, and the next day it's like, okay, right? That's basically, what I wanted is to create something for the future, something that remains, right? Like have like a legacy, right? It's a fun story because I remember I was walking with my brother in Chicago in a big franchise conference looking for opportunities to invest, right? So we
Nice.
spent like half a day on this, beautiful conference where you have like big franchises just presenting you amazing plans, right? And my brother and I were like taking notes and having like the top five franchises from that conference, right? And I remember in parallel, I had your team, working on a nice, very robust and solid summary that you guys were sending to me based on the criteria that I choose, right? I'm like, hey, these are the criteria I want to focus my investment, right? And I say it's a fun story because basically the top five that I got from my brother and I, then I put it together with the top five that you guys sent me, and the one that was like there, like highlighting, was Woof Gang Bakery Grooming,
Oh wow, that's
right?
great. The
So
chances
that,
that you saw them, I don't think they're still doing live events. I think they're mostly getting franchisees through referrals and other mechanisms. So
the,
it's
the,
great that.
the corporate team, I mean, the leadership team, they are doing some events
Oh,
time to
nice.
time for sure. But yes, I mean, we're growing very fast. It's the pet franchise that is most rapidly growing in US. So it's just crazy.
Yeah, tell me a little bit how we complemented your market research. We kind of merged in terms of the sourcing and review, as you just said. But how do we complement the work of you and your brother? Obviously highly skilled professionals, to make and validate that Wolfgang was the right decision for you guys.
Yeah, well, out of my 17 years working at P&G, more than half I spent it on market research, right? So I would say very humbly that I consider myself like an expert on market research. So I understand the value, right? I understand how important it is to do a high quality market research before you go and invest in anything, right? An executive in a very good company can make what, 200, 300, 400, or $500 per day, maybe, right? So if you multiply that by the days or weeks that will take you to do a high quality market research, it will be a lot of money, right?
It's
So
true. You
that
valued your time.
you value your time. You have to value your time as an executive. And that's what I was doing when I was working at P&G. It's like, oh my God, I cannot spend like weeks of my time on where to put my
And
money.
you're
And that's
also
what,
balancing the family aspect. You have your day job, your career, and the family, and it's like, well, I could spend
exactly.
30 plus hours just doing franchise research.
You are completely right, Patrick. So basically, and I remember something that you told me is like, we were talking in one of our first interviews. Like, yeah, I mean, it's like one of the best ROIs, right? Decisions that I ever made is like definitely, going with your team, having all these like thousands of data points analyzed already in my screen. Okay. that helped me to make the best decision of, going with the right franchise.
And I think it was at the time we started working together that Vetted Biz, our sister company, was really picking up steam. And now that's like pretty much the marquee, franchise data provider for consumers, where there's data on 7,000 plus franchises, 20,000 plus franchise disclosure documents. So a lot of data mined. And for those that aren't familiar with Vetted Biz listening, that's our sister company. That powers a lot of the research that we conduct on behalf of our clients at Visa Franchise. Walk me through the E2 visa. I think we connected maybe on LinkedIn, and then we had our first interview, our first chat. At that point, did you already know you were going to do the E2 investor visa? I know you have the Italian passport like myself, which opens up the E2 visa, and you're originally from Venezuela. A lot of people have dual nationality.
Yeah.
Venezuela is not eligible for the E2 visa. But tell me a little bit about your E2 visa journey.
Look, our visa process was very smooth, I have to say. I mean, there are certain requirements that you need to meet, but if you are organized and with your paperwork, you have the right, let's say, immigration attorneys helps big time, right? I mean, remember that an E2 visa is an investor visa that has the objective of bringing investors and talent to work in this beautiful country, right? So if you come prepared and if you demonstrate always with the truth that you are coming to work and work hard, okay, and develop a strong business plan and have of course the level of investment required, you shouldn't have any problem on getting the visa approved. Now, of course, I mean there is always that little stress, right? That is
Of
like, oh,
course.
do I have everything correct, right? It takes some time. So I remember it took like, I don't know, probably like 6 months, something like that, to get everything like that we needed. And very important for people that are watching this episode to know is like you have to select the right franchise that actually supports for E2 visa, right? Not all franchises, right? And that's where Patrick, your team been has been great, bringing value, like showing up which are those franchises that actually support foreign investors.
Yeah,
And
no, that's well said. I mean, I
Woof
think
Gang
there's
Bakery and Grooming has been one of those that, I mean, I have met their leadership team and they are fantastic. I mean, I shared such many common things with them, past
I
executive.
could definitely see you guys connecting. I know the CFO is also Venezuelan. I forget if you knew, but they used to work with my brother and business partner Jack. Jack and I started Visa Franchise back in 2015 in October. It's coming on 10 years, but before that, he worked at Restaurant Brands
Yes.
International,
Uh-huh.
and he worked with Ricardo, the CEO,
They,
Joseph,
they are
the
amazing. I mean, there
CFO.
are there are a lot
Basically,
of
their whole C-suite were
la-
executives at one of the largest franchise systems.
yeah, yeah, they are. They're basically Latin, right? That there is a lot of Latin talent there,
Definitely.
which is great. Yeah.
And so, I mean, obviously you connected with the leadership team and like they're really heavily stacked. I mean, I remember seeing when the private equity company bought Woof Gang and just looking at the P&L, like their first year expenses were really high because they hired a ton of staff to support their franchisees. I was like, oh wow, damn, this is a growth private equity. This isn't cost cutting. These guys are going all in. So obviously that's a nice appeal. But what else connected you with Woof Gang Bakery? And for those that aren't familiar with the concept, what is it? How does it make money?
Well, Wolf Gang Bakery and Grooming is an amazing franchise, right? It is a concept that focuses right on the health, happiness, and well-being of your furry friends, right? Cats and dogs, right? That vision is just amazing. It has a dual, I would say, a dual concept, which you have the bakery section, which provides like the best treats for your doggy, right? Healthy treats.
I'm sure all the Californians coming to Idaho love that.
Oh my God, they are like completely in love. So I have one very good friend that is like actually building a couple of Wolfgang stores in California. So
Oh,
and
nice.
he's a French guy, so he's really amazing. So basically, you have the bakery section. So doggies, when they come in to the store, they are like, oh my god, this is the Disneyland for doggies, right? I mean, they are like super happy. So we want them to enter happy, and then we want them to leave happier, right? So we have in the back side of the store, we have everything for personalized grooming. Okay, and it's a one-to-one relationship between the groomer and the doggy that makes the service like top notch, right? So all doggies when they come out, okay, 99.9% of the times they get treats. So it's like for them, it's like okay, perfect. I want to come back, right? I mean, so
Hmm.
not only they get nice treats, but also we treat them like family, okay, and that's I believe is what is making the difference versus all the other commercial place that maybe they have doggies that are more like doggy number one, doggy number two, doggy number three. We are not that, right? I mean, we want them
And
to
it's
feel.
set up, from what
Mhm.
I understand, it's really set up for grooming, and it's a large part of revenue. Where we work with other franchise brands that are doing, one I'm thinking that does overnight boarding and daycare, and I think they have just one or two docs for grooming. How many stations do you guys have for grooming?
Well, it depends the site, the location, right? But
Sure.
it could vary between 6, 7,
A lot.
or 8.
Hmm.
Yeah, I decided to go with a large format, so I have 8. So yeah,
You have 8 grooming stations.
yeah.
Okay. And how's it been? I know the U.S. labor market's cooled off a bit since the time you first opened and were staffing. How is it finding and training groomers?
Groomers are very smart, you know professionals, right?
They're
And
artists too.
they're artists, bro. So it's part of art and part of science, right? And they really value a good environment to work, right?
Okay.
An environment that they can build that relationship with your doggy, right? They do not like having putting quantity on top of quality, so they want to focus on quality, and that's something that we in Wolfgang we can offer them the possibility of not only focusing on your doggy, but developing your career and learning more things. My groomers, they have access to a learning hub that the corporate team have developed. Oh my god, that's amazing source of information for groomers to just go and learn new things every day.
And I imagine that that's one of the benefits of going with a franchise where, like, yeah, in theory, you could have opened up Adrian's, dog grooming and bakery, but you'd have to basically do the vendor relationship, source the product, do the training for hiring, best practices for hiring, and like pretty much half the business you don't have to really worry about. And going to my question, what do you do? Like, what's a day look like for you?
Well, the fun part of being entrepreneur, right, and having a franchise is that once you have like enough knowledge from your past experiences, right, on managing people, on reading P&L, some basic on marketing or market research, right, or public relations. Now you have to put that in practice every day. So it's challenging, I have to say, right, because you have to act as the HR of your company, as the CFO, the CMO. Like you have to do everything, right? Of course, you can leverage on good talent that you can contract, right? But still, you have to know a little bit of everything. So my daily work is like, yes, I need to come to the store. Actually, today I'm in the store. You need to supervise how all the operation is going, and time to time you have employees that they cannot make it to work because they're sick or they're not feeling good, right? So you need to go and just be there. You need to go there and be the face with the customer, and I believe that's important. I mean, there are two type of investors, right? You could be a passive investor, which is great, okay, and you can make that choice, but then you must have a great manager managing your store, or you can operate your business, and I can tell you the growth will come exponentially, because there is
Yeah.
nothing better than you managing your own business.
Yeah, we've had a 10-year run now, and we had a lot of very wealthy clients that were older, 60s, 50s, 60s. They kind of already made it, and no one cares as much about the owners. So we're a big advocate. Invest the money, roll up your sleeves, work whatever 50, 60 hours a week, whatever the business takes. Maybe some weeks it's just 20 hours, but be willing to work as many hours as possible. And then it's easier to do a transition to passive. And especially if you already have 3 locations open, then you can then hire like an area manager and kind of more be responsible for the
Exactly.
vision of
Yeah.
the growth and the culture. So tell me a bit about your success first store in Boise. Obviously, you being hands on, your background. What were some of the key decisions you made to set yourself up for growth there?
First, I would say the first store has been fantastic. The growth is here. It's doing amazing, and we are going for a second store, and we are going more aggressively. I have to say, for the second store, we learn a lot from this first experience, and we are now from a team size. We're going bigger for the second store, so we can capitalize profits earlier in the process because we also have the knowledge on how to do it, right? And from a marketing standpoint, same thing, more aggressive, more marketing, and that has been proven to be working. Okay, a good ROI on the marketing side. And yes, so for the second and for the third store will be a faster pace of bringing new talent to work in our stores.
And when you build out the business plan for the second and third store, like what do you budget in terms of like working capital, or how many months you're not making money from the business and you're spending money?
Look, I believe if you can plan for from 4 to 6 months of working
Yeah.
capital, okay, that would be more than enough, at least in this type of business that is rapidly growing, to a point that you can then you know like take off, right, the business.
And I know that's pretty attractive for pet services, where we've worked with other groups that it's more, like a veterinary hospital might be 12 to 18 months. Doctors are expensive, and to build the portfolio, as well as some other pet service franchises, that it's longer than 4 to 6 months. So I imagine Wolfgang's aggressive marketing techniques, and also you being in a high growth area. I think Boise's the city that's grown the most in the United States, and just Idaho in general is an amazing place to live, and people know about it now too.
People love dogs, right? And they
Yeah.
they are part of their family, so they care about their health, right? Many people believe that grooming is only about end look, but it's not, right? A big portion of that is about the health of your doggy. You have to groom your doggy if you want him or her to be in a health condition, right? In a good health condition.
And then for those others considering the E2 visa route, and particularly franchising, any suggestions that you might have for them?
Look, spend a good amount of time on market research, right? Selecting the right franchise, okay, is very important. So my advice for people that are watching is, you know what, choose a franchise that the vision aligns with your vision, that the values of the company aligns with your values, okay. And if you can choose a franchise that actually aligns with your passion, that's perfect. Okay, and that was the case of me and my family. We are dog lovers, right?
Yeah, same.
Is every day that I come to work, in my store is just a pleasure.
Adrian, where do you see yourself, in the next 3 to 5 years? Or is this, grow a few more stores and then go into some other venture and keep those stores, or
Well,
in the
Patrick,
next,
I
few
cannot
years?
reveal my strategy, but
Sure.
but definitely more Wolfgang stores are coming. Okay, which
Great.
we are very very excited to be part of this Wolfgang family, and maybe when I retire, I will create like a consultancy firm, something like that. So, but
Nice.
um, I will keep
So you're staying on course.
yes, of course, of course.
How many franchisees did you talk to, by the way, as part of your validation process with Wolfgang?
Look, I what I did is like I choose one or two like very successful stores
Great.
across US, and I gave them a call. Right, I talked with them just to make sure that is this the right thing to invest. And yeah, it was a really nice conversation with them. Again, they were sharing some common things with me, and the good thing about the franchisees of Wolfgang, many of them is like a family owned, right? It's not like a big companies like investing in Wolfgang, right? So it's like family owned, family operated, locally, operated, which is really good. And in Wolfgang, we opened a store in Canada. So I had the opportunity to
That's right.
actually go into Canada, right, and just visit that store. And for me, well, oh, this is fantastic. This is a franchise that actually is growing beyond, right?
Internationally.
And, mhm.
Well, Adrian, I want to thank you so much for taking the time and sitting down with me, and wish you the best of luck with Woof Gang, and thanks again for taking the time to connect.
Patrick, big pleasure. You and your team has been, again, as I said at the beginning of this interview, a critical, element in the success of, my entrepreneurial journey. So I really thank you from the bottom of my heart, and the best of, success for you and your team as well.
No, thanks so much. It really made me happy when I reached out and I'm hearing you're already doing the second store and that things are going well. So my pleasure, and thanks again,
Thank
Adrian.
you, Patrick.